Imagine trying to force two physical objects to occupy the exact same space at the exact same time. In digital image steganography, we attempt something similar, embedding a dense, complex secret image entirely inside a cover image of the exact same dimensions, 128 pixels by 128 pixels. This is known as a one-to-one payload ratio. It represents a massive data capacity challenge, pushing the limits of how much information an image can hide before the file structure breaks down. Traditional methods, like least significant bit substitution, operate directly on the pixels. At low volumes, they work fine. But at a one-to-one ratio, replacing that much pixel data causes the visual quality of the cover image to drop. The secret becomes visible to the naked eye. Modern deep learning autoencoders attempt to solve this by spreading the secret data out. But even if the resulting image looks clean to a human, the network leaves behind statistical footprints that automated detection tools catch. To hide data at a true one-to-one ratio, a network must solve an optimization paradox, maintaining visual clarity for human eyes while neutralizing the specific statistical patterns that algorithms are trained to detect. The root of this paradox is a trade-off in how we process image data. If you embed a secret directly into the spatial domain, the literal pixels you see, it is easier to preserve the structural visual quality of the image. However, modifying those pixels inevitably creates correlated data traces. Because adjacent pixels in natural images follow predictable mathematical patterns, spatial modification is identified by statistical steganalysis. The alternative is the frequency domain. By transforming the image into its spectral frequencies before embedding the secret, the data is scattered. This destroys predictable pixel correlations and resists standard statistical detection. But the frequency domain has its own flaw. Altering spectral frequencies often introduces harsh, unnatural boundary artifacts into the final image, especially when rendering complex visual textures. A new architecture called FS-Stego tackles this exact problem. It is a highly efficient, sub-1 million parameter neural network, explicitly designed to process both the spatial and frequency domains simultaneously. FS-Stego manages this trade-off by dynamically routing data to its safest representation, moving the secret payload into whichever domain offers the least detection. The architecture begins by feeding the cover image and the secret image into parallel encoders. These extract the initial geometric and color data, outputting deep feature representations at 64 channels each. These features are then routed into the first half of the dual-path system, the spatial branch. Here, operations occur strictly within the literal pixel domain. To avoid altering predictable, smooth areas, the network employs a convolution-based spatial attention mechanism. Its job is to mathematically map the texture complexity of the entire cover image. Take a look at this spatial attention heat map overlaid on a jellyfish. The high-intensity areas, marked in red and yellow, are isolated strictly to the complex textures of the tentacles. The network actively tags these regions as prime embedding targets, as complex textures provide effective camouflage for hidden data. Conversely, the attention mechanism assigns the dark, smooth water low weights, explicitly instructing the network to ignore them to avoid visual distortion. By selectively embedding data exclusively where the human visual system expects to see structural noise, the spatial path successfully exploits perceptual masking. But perceptual masking isn't enough to fool statistical algorithms, so in parallel, the original features are routed into the frequency branch. Here, a fast Fourier transform maps the spatial data into the complex plane. Once in the spectral domain, the network applies a phase shift injection technique. It fuses the real and imaginary components of the secret and cover data, controlled by a precisely tuned 0.3 scalar injection. This graph shows that additive fusion strategy in action. We can see the clean spectrum of the cover image physically merging with the secret spectrum by shifting the phase of the frequencies. Measuring this shift via radial frequency distribution, the blue curve shows the original cover image holding energy in low frequencies. The orange curve represents the Stego image. Notice its distinct rise in mid to high frequency energy. That amplified high-frequency bandwidth is exactly where the secret payload now lives. Pumping extra data into high frequencies can easily cause structural tearing in the final image. To manage this, the network passes the data through a specialized channel attention mechanism.
This mechanism explicitly prioritizes certain feature channels, specifically channels 57 and 46, which are responsible for carrying delicate edge details, ensuring they are not destroyed by the injected data. The frequency path embeds the payload into the spectral domain. This neutralizes the statistical traces that pixel embedding leaves behind, all while maintaining the image's high-frequency edge integrity. We now have optimized spatial data and optimized frequency data. But simply concatenating these two streams together creates a blurred, suboptimal feature space where their unique advantages cancel each other out. The streams must be intelligently combined. They enter the adaptive fusion module, where a one-by-one convolution block analyzes the competing data streams and generates distinct spatial weight maps for both domains. The danger here is ambiguity. If the network defaults to a cautious 50-50 weight split between domains, it fails to exploit the specific strengths of either path. To prevent ambiguity, researchers embedded Shannon entropy regularization into the network's loss function. By calculating the entropy of the weight distribution at every pixel, it actively forces weight values away from the center line toward extreme limits. Because maximum entropy represents maximum uncertainty, penalizing it punishes indecision. Consequently, the network is forced to make a decisive extreme choice, like a hard 90-10 split, choosing either the frequency or spatial path for every individual pixel. These hard routing decisions are not arbitrary. They are calculated dynamically, pixel by pixel, based on the local contextual needs of the image geometry. Entropy regularization acts as a mathematical traffic controller. It forces hard routing decisions that prevent feature collapse and ensures that every byte of secret data is sent to its optimal embedding location. This entropy penalty is unified into a final composite loss function, working alongside a gradient perceptual loss to preserve the cover image, and an L1 and mean-squared error loss to reconstruct the secret data. We can observe this routing in the final distribution of residual signals. Here is a side-by-side comparison of residual heat maps, a smooth portrait, and a highly textured fireworks scene. The spatial module dominates the smooth portrait using subtle pixel shifts. Meanwhile, the frequency module takes over the fireworks scene, burying data inside chaotic, highly textured spectral bands. Because this embedding strategy dynamically shifts its methodology based entirely on local texture, the final steganographic image lacks a consistent global statistical signature for an algorithm to latch onto. To test this, the output was subjected to 3 deep learning steg analysis detectors, ResNet-18, ZooNet, and SNet. This chart plots the ROC curves for all 3 detectors. Notice how all 3 curves group tightly along the diagonal baseline, which represents a random guess. The area under curve metric hovers around 0.55. In binary classification, an AUC of 1 is perfect accuracy, and 0.5 is random chance. At 0.55, these advanced steg analysis algorithms are reduced to a coin toss. By successfully eliminating predictable embedding patterns at the pixel level, FS-Stego mathematically blinds the most advanced steg analysis networks currently available. The system maintains visual quality, scoring a peak signal-to-noise ratio of 42 decibels, while hiding a massive 1-to-1 payload ratio. This security is achieved with high efficiency, contained entirely within a deployable sub-1 million parameter footprint. FS-Stego demonstrates that reducing advanced detectors to a coin toss doesn't require massive parameter counts. It requires the adaptive routing of features across discrete domains.